right when I started, I left the car world and I stepped out. I was like, I'm going to go get a business loan. I heard people talk about that. And like, you read in the books, like, go get a business loan, blah, blah. So I leave dealership. I walk into the bank. I was like, I want to get a business loan. And like, well, this is what we need from you. And they asked me for my income. I was like, well, it's nothing. Like, so I was getting the business loan.
It's zero. It was this. Does that count?
And they're like, you can't get a loan with no income. I was like, So that whole that whole they thing about getting money, yeah, that was I thought that was gonna be easy. I'm like, I'm at 800 credit score. I'm like, I got good credit. And they're like, you make no money.
You make no money. Where's your collateral?
I was like, that's what I'm trying to get money from you guys to get a business loan. And they're like, no. And I was like, okay, that got shot down really fast because I had this very lucrative plan in my head that I was gonna execute, and after that got shot down, I was like, I don't think it's going that way.
No. So. Okay, no. At least that day is not going to help me out. That day.
What are you doing over there? It's right there at the front. The one that says "Old Granddad." Oh, yeah.
I thought I'd be sneaky by texting him that so that we wouldn't derail the podcast.
Dre over there just moseying around, like rummaging through the.
It actually went the
dude
exact.
Doesn't even drink whiskey. I'm like, what is he doing over there?
Went the exact opposite way.
But what are you doing down there?
I'm just hanging out, man.
Just hanging out.
I'm just hanging out. I'm here for support if you guys really need it.
I love it. I need it.
Yeah,
I love it.
But side note too.
What was your other question?
I was like, now that we've completely derailed this, now's probably a good time to bring it back to the second question, which is MMG as a company has always been within one set of walls. Now we are 9 days away from opening up our second location.
10 days.
Nice.
I looked at my watch. I don't have a date on this watch.
It's like
he just looked at the time.
I do one of these. I was like,
I know it's about 8:03. What
I was like, wrong watch. No date on this.
I was like,
10 days from opening our second location. And I think that, I have some opinions and thoughts. Dane has some opinions and thoughts, but like us as a company have not had multiple locations. So for you being a business owner that has multiple locations, multiple leaders in each, what do you think is something that we should be doing to prepare ourselves, things that we should be thinking about or to consider as we step into that next chapter for us?
I'd say the biggest thing is, even though they're going to be super close in proximity, you still have to figure out how to be, I'm not going to say you have to figure out how to be in two places at once. Don't try to figure out how to be at two places at once. Like, they're still two separate entities. And so have leaders at both. Like, if one is for sales or whatever, the other one's for have a sales, whatever, that is like really, really empowering that. And like, I don't think this is going to be revolutionary to you guys, because it seems as if you do a good job of like empowering your leaders to like do their job, and then you get the hell out of their way. That was one thing that took me a really long time to figure out. And that is like the biggest thing. Like, hire very freaking competent people to do the thing, delegate to them, empower them to do it. And then like really have them understand, like, being a leader isn't just creating followers. Being a leader is creating other leaders.
Yeah.
And like, that helps so much. And like, that was my issue for a really long time. Like, I think you've talked about it of like, it doesn't have to be me. I don't have to be the guy. I want it to be like a gang of people that's around me and everyone's winning and everyone's eating. Like, for a long time, that wasn't me. Like, maybe that was a scarcity mode or something, but like, I struggled with that for way too long, where like I was the bottleneck. And so for two locations, I think it's probably gonna be easier than you guys think when it comes to that, because you're doing a lot of the things that's gonna make it a lot easier. But like, really trust the leaders and let them do their thing. And then just like systems. It's like right now under one roof, you can just run over to the other room and ask the person.
Which that's the thing we've been really disciplined on in the last 6 months.
Yeah.
Really 2024, because started 24, we just yelled across the river market, hey Logan, you get that done? Like, that was the extent of our systems.
Yeah.
Like, and we literally, if everyone sat at their desk, turn your heads, you could see everyone at the company.
Like, that's kind of nice too, in one way or another.
Yeah.
But like, you being a Disney guy, you get that. Like, for Disney World to run, like if you just stand back and watch everything,
It's
like what the hell
wild.
is happening here? Like how is all this working simultaneously? So many groups, so many different areas. How do they have Disney World, Disneyland, Disney cruises, Disney animation, movies, like how do systems? McDonald's. You have the McDonald's guy on. I think he said there's like 30,000 locations and they're run pretty much by high schoolers and college kids and people who do a lot of drugs based off the ones that I've seen and the friends that I've had that work there. Systems.
Yeah.
You know, like that's wild. Like this, when I was just getting into Rocky Mountain, I was still in St. Joe. I had a business field consultant through Rocky Mountain. His name's Dave. He was a dope dude. He was super fun. We'd go out. It was a great time. And I didn't learn a lot from him, but the thing that he said the very last day, he's like, just if anything else, remember this. People don't run systems. Systems run people. And I've held on to that since then. It's like, let your people win by running the system. And if you don't have one, you're going to have all your people doing that thing so many different ways to get the result, and it's going to be chaos.
So I will
People
say
don't
that
raise to the level of your expectations; they fall to the level of your system.
So the one thing I will say is,
make them. They can bend, but if they break, then you're in trouble. But bending is good. You can shore them up, you can change them, all that kind of stuff. But that's one thing that I just has stuck with me over and over and over again.
so in that hospitality book, it talks about the process and systems do come to a spot though that it hinders creativity.
Yes,
That it's something that we've been working a lot on where we don't hinder creativity too much by systems.
Yeah.
Because we do live in a creative space. That it's, if we built out a system that this is the way that every single company has to run, we end up like every other marketing agency out there.
Yeah. It's a good point.
And it's
It's a good point.
my deal is I don't want to be every other marketing company out there that is just a fully systematic ran company. And like, yeah, we could get to a profitable state and we could run the contracts and say, hey, we know every year we have to outsell our cancellation rate. That's pretty much what they do. They know they're going to go shove a bunch of people in contracts. They know they're going to have a super high cancellation rate. We just got to sell more in the next 12 months than they cancel. That's how they move forward.
Yeah.
I hate that business model. Absolutely hate it. To where it's our business models, we don't run contracts, but it also requires a higher level of creativity.
Yeah, because they can dip out at any time.
Exactly. So we may be smooth, and then a business may have a huge problem thrown in, a huge rock thrown in that business, just like every business does. And when that problem arises, we have to have the creativity and the ability to adapt and change that we may not have a system for or have a process for.
Yeah.
But it's trusting the leaders in place that they know how to overcome those problems. So that's what I've worked on a lot this year, is with the leadership group, of them being able to overcome those problems without always having to come to me. It's crazy watching them overcome these problems for business owners at a high level.
Yeah.
That I'm like, we multiply this one or two more times, like our national level movement is going to be monstrous.
Yeah.
But it's but not
That's a
hindering
really good point.
that creativity side, because when you look at McDonald's, you look at these big, huge franchises, it's a plug and play system from A to Z that the person plugged into it they get 100% of their creativity taken away.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
So
and I think
you don't get to remix the recipe on a McChicken.
And
The McChicken is the McChicken.
They want that too.
Which
It's like you come in, just can you do this? You can't do this. You're not the one. We'll get someone else in. Can you do this? Follow this system.
Which I mean, there's just the king of the franchise world of what they've done.
Yeah.
But it's also, I look at it as every single business is so vastly different. You have to understand that. And if we make something so systematic that we treat a car dealership and a yogurtini the same, if we came in, we ran your stores like we did a car dealership, you'd be like, what the hell are you guys doing?
Yeah.
That's what the system says we do, man.
Yeah. That's what we do.
That's the playbook.
The paper says.
Yeah, the paper says we do this.
Yeah.
Like, and you'd be like,
I would
no.
argue that is part of your guys' process. Maybe not your system. I think systems and processes can be like different in a way.
Yeah.
Your system, I 100%, like your process is that. Be light on your feet. Like Coach always say, keep your head on a swivel.
Right.
That unrelenting, it's not called that, but whatever, hospitality, like you're living that thing. Like something breaks down, handle it. In the name of the customer, handle it. Figure it out. 5 stars all across the board with the service, and like get that thing done.
But the thing is, like, you look at 3 people roll up to a restaurant, hospitality looks different to all 3 people.
Mm-hmm.
You could have pulled up in a car and been out and had a meter that I have to go put quarters in. You could have rolled up on a bike, had it in the bike rack out front that I need to go make sure it didn't get stolen.
Yeah.
Ricky could have walked in. Like, so hospitality looks completely different for 3 different people.
Yeah. Yep.
So to have one process that says this is what it is, go put coins in the parking meter, and that's what hospitality is going to be. Well, Ricky walked in, so how do I get it? Give Ricky any hospitality.
Yeah,
is
a point.
Bike out front, so how do I give him Alex hospitality? So it's like, it's so different, and that's where I think us adapting and us growing as a leadership side, and the leadership side starting to grow the other leaders in the company. I've had a lot of people tell me that, like, you're not going to be able to fill a building with all A players. I've told every one of them just
sounds like a challenge to me.
I feel like we've done a pretty damn good job.
I think that my biggest thing with the systems part of it, because that's the one thing that I really nerd out on, is just how do we improve that, is, to me, my thing is removing friction so that we can spend the time on the creative.
Yeah.
So when I find the friction points that shouldn't be there, and we can find more efficient ways to get our time back, in my eyes, that is now taking that time, and now we can allocate that to the things where it truly takes brain power. You know, if we have those things where they flow, and we have automations, and we have the triggers that are going off in the systems, where people aren't then spending their time walking across the office, asking questions. Who's doing this? Where do I find this? Is this done yet? Who's going to do that? Those things. When we take that time back, now that's the time where we can have the actual movement, making conversations of strategy, creative, differentiators, those things. So that's where, to me, that's, in my personal opinion, that's where you meet the balance of the systems, processes, operations with the creative strategy and like critical thinking.
I think so. I think it comes down to efficiencies as well. Right. So I know we talk a lot also about like 1% better every single day. The thing that I figured out in my 13 years of doing this is like 1% better every single day ends up yielding a 30% increase one day. It ends up yielding larger increases than that. And so like with these 2 buildings, they're probably gonna feel different because it's just different. My stores, we systemize them and standardize them. So if you're a manager or an employee at one store and you go to another one, you kind of know where everything's going to be. The nutrition information is going to be here. You know what's in the safe. You know what's in the fridges and the freezers. Like you can walk in and be like, got it, cool. But like the vibe is you guys live in my Shoal Creek location. You go to Shoal Creek versus Plaza versus Overland Park, 3 different vibes, same people who are kind of running it and all that kind of stuff, but a different vibe when it comes to that. And so like, let it be the vibe that it's going to be underneath one mission that is shared by everybody. But like, it's not going to be a perfect day one. So like 1% increases, 1% increases, 1% increases. And at what point does that take hold? And it's like massive increase. Like our sales have increased over the last, since COVID, 15%, 12%, 11%, keeps going up. The start of this year, I said, we're either going to win or we're going to learn. Like we're going to go really big this year. And we got rid of some people. We brought some other people in. We started doing some unique stuff. Running actual ads has been nice. We're up 27% this year when we already were having our best year. But it was 1%, 1%, 1%, 1%, 27% increase. So I'm excited for you guys because you guys, you know that.
I think it's the hockey stick of growth.
Yep.
And it's one of those things that sometimes you're just grinding, you're doing something for so long, and you're like, those 1%, that 1% is hard to see a lot of times, especially when you get in the groove and you get consistent with it. That for a long time, I was doing those stories when I was driving in, and I was like, am I wasting my time? And it's wild that, we discussed what, 2 days? What's today? Wednesday? Monday?
Today's Thursday.
Today's Thursday. Wow. Where's the week go? I haven't drank very much. what was it, Monday or Tuesday, we're talking about like salespeople, and we want 10 of them by January 1. And we put on we've literally just put up a couple stories. Yeah. Ricky had a whole slew of people reach out, put up on a couple MMG stories. Had like 15 people reach out today and interviewing people one after another, had multiple phone calls on it. And it's just crazy, like seeing that, where now doing those stories, that 1% added up to something that now we have a lever to pull that most people would give astronomical amounts of money for. That business owners would pay anything to have the lever that says, hey, can I get 30 people to reach out to my business today? Mm-hmm. Look at all the businesses that pay into Indeed every single month to try to get more employment, that pay into all these different culture building things, pay to go to career fairs, pay to all these different things, trying to recruit everywhere. That if you build the culture and build the stance that people want to be a part of, they'll come. And they'll be there watching the whole time. That we've had multiple people reached out today that been following you for 3 years. I was like, wow. 3 years ago, it was probably pretty rough to watch.
And you said you stuck around.
Stuck around, kept watching. Right. Like your videos probably got better. I know there's no way they were how they are now 3 years ago.
I mean, with the podcast, I highly recommend anybody that's out there, don't waste your time watching the first probably 25 podcasts, because they were pretty rough.
I know Dre typically goes around saying like, hey, did you see the original podcast? So go back and watch it.
Humble beginnings, humble beginnings.
Yeah, it was rough, but it was one of those things when we hit it, it was just like, we have to start, we have to figure it out. But we've dropped a podcast every single Monday for what,
144?
144 weeks.
Wild. Congrats, guys. That's something to celebrate.
It's consistency wins the game.
Yeah.
It's you can consistently get better, keep pressing. The podcast has a lot of different meanings to it. The podcast started off as like a backdoor sales tool. Then it was like that started kind of working. But I was talking to somebody today on the phone, guy talking about sales, and he's like, well, what's your exit point? What are you trying to get to exit? I go, this isn't a sale. MMG is not for sale. It's not going to be for sale. I was like, everything we can do under this, I go, we can acquire companies in the future, scale them up, sell them, do things like that. But I go, MMG itself is not for sale. I was like, we're going to have podcast documentation from the beginning. One day when we're all gone, these are still going to live strong.
Yeah.
Our kids are going to be able to go back and watch us, what we did.
Yeah. Love that.
Like,
that's
that's what I think is like way cooler and way more purpose than any of the rest of it. That the money will come. Acquiring money is one thing. Building a purpose with a big group of people around you, that's cool.
Yeah, I love that.
So it's like, that's why I look at it as like the podcast. I look at all these things that when you preach consistency to people, when you preach those things, so many people say, hey, you need to be more consistent. You need to do this. They're not consistent with anything in their life.
Yeah.
So if you're going to tell people to do things, do it yourself.
Yeah.
That's what we live by. Yeah. So
I think it's the other part of what I see on that is like, be consistent, but taking it back to like, at the end of the day, you're serving a customer, you're serving people. And like most people aren't consistent, like you said. And I think one of the biggest things is like people struggle to like themselves or love themselves or show up for themselves, especially to be on camera. And you all show up on camera consistently. So like that is just truly inspiring for people as well. I mean, people watching you for 3 years on this thing. I bet a lot of them are like, man, I wish I could show up like that. Man, I feel called to do something so big. I feel called to start this business. I feel called to have kids and show up for them or whatever it is. And so to see other people who are doing that, and it's like, oh, I saw MMG in an ad. Oh, I saw him on YouTube Shorts. Oh, I saw him here. Like that whole vibe helps people step out on faith and be like, I can do this too. My voice matters. I heard Alex talk and he didn't talk too good, but if he can do it, I can do it. You know what I mean? Like,
these two both, the second they both walk in, they were like naturals. When Ricky started, I was like, dude, I wish I could get on camera like you. When Ricky first started, it was just like, no problem. I was like, yeah, I'm not on camera at all. And then I opened up my mouth about a podcast. And I'm like a firm believer, if I say something, I'm going to do it no matter what.
Yeah.
And I opened up my mouth on it. But Ricky's like, dude, I've been doing stuff on camera since I was like 7th grade.
7th grade, yeah.
7th grade.
I was only 12.
Yeah.
A little different than 7.
But he's like, started in 7th grade, like just had a camera in his hand, like doing all this stuff. And he just like jumped on a camera. And I was like, I was so envious. Like when Ricky would like hit a video, I'm like, how's he do that?
Yeah. You know what I'm
That's
saying?
wild.
But it helps your journey. And so like even with your business, like we do a lot of stuff with the Big Brothers, Big Sisters together.
Yeah.
We're on boards. Like you've built a big brand doing your video and everything. Like that stuff matters to people who want to show up and do video, who want to start a business, who like I know you're unapologetic just like I am on like Big Brothers, Big Sisters, like what that means to us.
Yeah.
Like that matters to people, you know, like that. I mean, that really does matter to people. It inspires them to step out and do the thing as well, serve other people, serve yourself, show up for yourself, love yourself, be consistent, all that kind of stuff. And so at the end of the day, like you're serving a customer, I'm serving a customer. It's great to give them froyo to bring them happiness. It's great to have them gain more money through the marketing efforts and all that kind of stuff. But like at the end of the day, like there's a person who owns that business, or there's a person who comes in that has a lot of stuff going on in their world. Like, I think I know you well enough to know like that is the end goal of like the feel good and the give back. Like that's dope. That feels all warm.
All
in
good
here.
things.
The
you
funny
know?
thing is how many times I've had people that are like, well, I'm in B2B, so social media doesn't work for me. I was like, no matter what you do in life, it's B2C.
Yeah. That's a resume. They're going to check that.
I go, I don't care what you do, it's B2C. No matter, there is a consumer on the other side of everything. There's a person that owns a business. There's a group of people that make up a board that you're going to talk to. It is people no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
And that person that owns a business is no different than anyone else.
Yep.
That it's like, Meoni Moss Marketing Group, I was no different than I was in the car space.
Yeah.
I've focused more on educating myself, finding a bigger purpose for myself. But it's, at the end of the day, I'm still a person.
Yeah.
So if somebody's going to sell us anything, yeah, it's a business, but they're selling me as a person, or Alex, or how many things do we, every time Alex comes in my office, I got to spend money. Like if you want to sell something to MMG, just hit Alex up.
I mean, I'm not gonna say it's completely wrong. I did ask him for stuff today, but I knew that he was trying to buy a lot of expensive stuff. So I was like, ooh, now's the time for me to slide in there.
Perfect time.
It's slightly less expensive than all the shit that he's looking at. So now's a good time to sneak in a purchase.
So he tries like beat around the bush selling shit. He'll come in, he's like, man, we could get this. He starts going into like this whole like spiel of like,
I sell him on the end product, not the cost.
I'm really I'm like, Alex, how much is it?
That's exactly what he did today.
And I'm like on my computer trying to knock shot. He said it behind me in my office. I'm just like, how much is the fight? What do I need to buy? And he's like, well, this one, if we get this one, we wouldn't have to replace it. And it's for indoor and outdoor. I'm like, what's the fucking price tag?
I want to come with options. I want to come with options.
Like,
I'm like, you get the gold, bronze, silver. I don't want to show
like,
up and then he asked me a question. Then I'm like, well, shit, I don't know. Let me go look it up.
And he's like,
I
or we could buy
appreciate that.
this one and we would have to buy it maybe like again. And it wouldn't last as long. I was like,
He's the goddamn price.
He's like, it's $300 for the nice one. I was like, just next time, don't even come to me with that. Just send the link to Dre and get it bought. Don't even waste my time with this. And he said,
So Dre, I did send you the link.
And it's not purchased yet.
you just going around trying to finesse.
I don't listen.
That's his job, though, right?
I act in the best interest of the company.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go ask for dumb shit because I will say, and I was not a business owner for a very long time. Clearly, we're here now, but that was the one thing that would piss me off all the time is that I would have, again, part-time employees, but part-time employees can be, well, why don't we just go buy this? Oh, if we buy this and buy this and buy this, I'm like, where is this magical money come from?
You got the credit card, man. You got to swipe that.
Oh,
From the business line.
I'm like,
Come
oh,
on.
it's they're like, it's a write-off. You know, it's just a write-off. I'm like, you realize that money still is required in this transaction? I'm like, are you buying
I have
this?
so I teach my managers those things so they understand the language of money, because I was getting into conversations like that where they just thought money just like write-offs were this magical thing that saved you money. I'm like, we're still spending the money, and like
You just get like a percentage of it back. Like,
Right.
like,
What
I have
is
to
a
teach them
write-off?
These things. I have to teach them these things, and it's crazy the stuff that they'll bring back and start asking questions on. I don't know if you guys have read the book, The Great Game of Business.
I have not.
It's so that was one book that I love. So I have a handful of books that I absolutely love, and I feel like I just read those over and over and over. That's one of them. And so his thing on that was you essentially open everything up to your employees, and so they know what's going on. That gives them more ownership, and you also teach them how to truly run a business And like, that's what I love. I create little entrepreneurs with, especially my managers, but anyone who wants to learn in my organization more than just the meaning of what they're doing every day, I will sit down with them for however long and teach them whatever they want to know. So they have more ownership. So they know, what's going on. They know why we do it, how we do it, all the kind of stuff. I used to hate when someone would tell me to do something and then not tell me the why. So if I tell anyone to do something, there's always a why with it to the bigger picture for what we do. So I think that's an awesome book
to that point.
I love.
I very much have, I feel kind of ran MMG the same way. That I'm not going to say all the way to the bottom now, because there are some people that I don't know if you're going to get through to them, but like our leadership side, very much on like, here's the open book of MMG. This is how much we're burning right now. This is what's happening. This is what's going to cost us to do this.
Yep.
Like, here's the book. Whatever you want to know, I'm going to tell you. But I think lower level, sometimes people don't fully understand that.
Yeah.
And it's, lost my train of thought of what I was.
I don't open it all the way up to lower employees because mine are high schoolers.
Yeah,
because they see sales and they're like, oh, you made $2 million this year. I'm like, sales, but like that's not how that works. It's down here. But I don't even show the bottom line because Gen Z is different in the way of like always trying to stick it to the man and like I'm the man. And so if they see the dollars in which I make, they're like, oh, this is just all the things.
But
you know what I mean?
You're immediately corrupt.
I'm corrupt. I'm this. I'm all that kind of stuff. So that's one thing that I don't do is my high schoolers and the one who can't handle that amount of information I don't show because it just shows a bigger, it creates a bigger issue. But like all my higher up managers will have those conversations, their bonuses and everything are tied to it, that kind of stuff. And that really, really works well. They understand it, they get it. Or if they're a younger manager and they have issues, we have sit downs and we talk about all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I think to that point of the Gen Zers trying to stick it to the man all the time, they're running around with like a plastic fork, like in a war with people with guns. And
you guys
like,
had something happen recently, huh?
Yeah, we did.
Oh, I'm so curious.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So
let's talk about that.
Off camera?
Off camera. It's not worth entertaining on camera anymore.
No. But it's one of those things that what they formulated in their head, it was a problem so big that they thought that they could sink a ship.
Yeah. Oh, man. Triggered.
It's it's funny.
I had one of those earlier this year.
But it's just funny when they formulate something like that in their head, they have created the biggest problem that they think could possibly happen to a company. And I'm like, you're only looking in like one department. You know what makes the whole machine go? Like, they don't understand what the money movement is. And you get a lot. They were the ones that sat there and looked at this top line revenue of what the company was making, not taking into account that we cover 50% of everyone's health insurance, vision, dental, the whole nine. Like, we have top tier benefits, rent on the place, employment tax, everything else. Like, what we spend on equipment in a month. Like, I mean, I walk into the Apple store and everyone knows me. Like, hey, Dave, what's going on, man? I'm like,
three or four of those are like, hey, how you doing, man?
They like you.
Yeah, they love me. But
like, no, I got him.
Please.
That's a good commission.
Yeah.
Mr. Dane Moss, please.
But it's every time
lady,
walk
you
in
go
there.
over here. I need to help this guy.
Exactly.
Right
Step aside, Susan. Step
I
aside.
need this commission.
But it's just like we're in there every week. I feel like buying more laptops, buying computers, and we're scaling really fast. So it's like equipment side, and they look at that top line dollar, and they're like, Dane's probably just bathing in this money at home. I'm like, we're burning a lot of money right now in just scale and it's speed, because we could ramp it down and go a lot slower.
Yep.
100%.
But it's also the side that I have the people I know that have the money backing and our pace of what we're doing, it tracks out correctly.
Yeah.
And the money makes sense to where there's people that want to invest in that when they see something it's getting on something, the train's taken off, it's moving really quickly and they want to get on.
Yeah. 100%.
Towards they see that the recipe of what we have works. And then it's when you get all this big, huge money injection, it's like, we have people thinking like that goes to them. I'm like, No, that counteracts all this equipment. Like we're spending $100,000 setting up our new spot. Like you really look at what the money is to make this happen.
Yeah.
And they can't wrap their head around something like that.
Yeah.
So it's hard too when I try to sit down and I explain that to people and I try to open their minds, and it's just like,
yeah. I don't think this is going to be fixed tomorrow, but I do think that's the importance of financial education. I wish it was taught at high school level, like college level, obviously, but like you're still going to miss a lot of people because a lot of people aren't going to college now. But like at high school level, they need to be teaching that basic thing, because I would like to say it's also not all the way their fault because they have no clue the difference. If you say revenue versus profit, they don't know what the difference is or
Net
what
versus
that stuff
gross
means. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like I empathize a little bit, but then it's how people handle it. When you educate them, do they listen and be like, oh, thank you for letting me know that? 99% of my team, yes. Earlier this year, I had my highest level person try to take down our entire organization. She felt so slighted. She tried to get everyone to quit. And after she quit, she called our franchisor to tell on us on something that they already knew to literally sink us. And her words was, I'm going to take this whole ship down. And like, you especially know how I run business. I really pour into my people and love my people hard. And so like that hurt, first off. But second, like, how were you so hurt where you wanted to take this thing down? And also the audacity for how well we treated you. And also the ego to think that you could take down what we're doing. Like that's where I eventually got of like, this is a big moving thing that we do here. Like we serve 360,000 cups of froyo a year. Like this isn't a small operation. We do over 2 million in frozen yogurt. And so like, I was very frustrated by that because the money that we paid, the benefits that we paid, the time we put in to the thing. And I'm like, that really struck a chord with me because I'm like I really pour my life into this thing. Like this isn't just a game for me. I love my people so hard. And so yeah, that was a really weird situation to find myself in.
You're just because we've had a lot of business conversations, a lot of growth conversations, and I've learned a lot from you. The idea of someone having that level of a vendetta against you is, I think, partially the issue I have with a lot of that age group is that stick it to the man mentality, to where they're trying to create the man wherever they can, just so that no matter who it is, no matter how nice you are, no matter how much good you do for their life, if they can paint you as the man and they can find an opportunity to then stick it to you. Yeah. I say they. It's obviously not applicable to everyone in that age group. But I feel as if there is that whole movement of you're really cool as an 18 to 22-year-old if you stick it to the man. And a lot of them are searching that so that they get then validation from their peers, regardless of how you treat them.
So the biggest problem with that whole thing, and where I got frustrated with what happened, was I had a group of 3 of them that did it, and they do absolutely nothing for a week. They jack up all the content that they were on. They didn't do any editing, and 3 of them come in and all quit at once. They knew that we were already stacked to the nines, all this stuff, just walk out. One of them doesn't even show up, just very cowardly in the way that they handled everything. My frustration is not what they did to me. It's what they did to everyone else in that building.
Yeah.
The people that I run with.
Yeah.
And it's when they think that they're trying to get me, that was their deal was, they were coming for me. He's going
to feel this.
And I'm like, the difference is, I'm like, it's what you did to everyone else in here. It's the marketing team that's having to stay late now to counteract that. It's the other content guys that were standing next to you that now have to pick up that slack. It's the editing that's having to be done by other people in here. You didn't screw me, you screwed everybody.
Yeah. Yep, 100%.
And it's like, when people do that, when they think that they're going after a singular person, they have this lens. It's like, just
like you're the bad guy. You're going to feel this.
Yeah. And I'm like, you don't get what you do to everyone else. And I'm not a selfish thinking person. So anytime, any move I make, anything I think of, I'm like, how does it affect everybody?
Yeah.
They don't think like that.
Yeah.
They think of themselves and themselves only. And if they want, it's an emotional decision. It's something that one time that I run a very different mentality in the way I run and operate. It's a winners fucking win, losers fucking lose mentality. But it's, I want A players. I want competitors. I want the people to compete. And it's like we run in a space that it hasn't been built that way in the past.
Yeah.
To where it turns a lot of people off. And for a long time, I operated just trying to kind of fit in, not be the one that pressed the market too much, being that vastly different. And now I'm at the spot that I'm like, we're going to play that card.
Yeah.
And we're going to run it and we're going to own it. But it turned off these content guys. It turned off people that they're not those winners. They're not competitors.
Yeah.
And it's all of a sudden that I'm the big bad guy because we're going to be aggressive in the space. And then all of a sudden they want to try to get over. And then they don't realize what they did to everyone that was standing next to them that has always been by their side to help them out on everything.
Yeah.
That's like one of our core values is 300. We rise as one, we fall as one. And if you don't have people that stand, I don't stand in front of anybody. I don't stand behind anybody. We stand as one. Mm-hmm. And it's good. I struggle with that with a lot of people that just think so selfishly about what their outcome is and everything that they do.
Yeah.
It's elevate the person next to you, and I promise you, I'll elevate you.
I love these I love these conversations because I think that, like, honestly, this is probably a conversation, this one that we just talked about, that I'd rather have off camera, but I actually do think it's important for your audience and when I share it out for people to hear, because like people know how you love your people and my people know how much I will die for my people.
I don't even work for you, and I know how much you love your
people.
Yeah, like just based
so
on the
much.
conversation. Like we've had in-depth conversations.
Yeah.
Tomorrow,
I'm like,
I'll walk in wearing a yogurt t-shirt. He's gonna be like, "Hey, Dad, I'm slinging yogurt."
Slinging yogurt on the side.
Well, no, that's what I'm just saying. I'm like, I know this guy will ride into battle with like ramen noodle as his weapon for his people, and then people are here shit talking him about how he doesn't
wild.
care.
You know what I mean?
Like, that's the part. It's like, I've never worked for you, but I know how much you care.
Yeah.
So that's
and like
that's
honestly,
part that's
earlier
crazy.
we talked about like you handle things logically. Like I have learned over the years to not handle things as emotionally, but I'm still emotional immediately. I get pretty emotional pretty quick, and then I'm like, okay, I'll be composed so I can have this conversation well. But like that stuff takes me emotional immediately because the connection that we have with our team, how much we care for them, the pay we have, like benefits for food retail, and the pay that we have is wild. Like it's not a thing in our energy or our industry. You know what I'm saying? So like that just isn't a thing, but we do that because we want to pay them well. They deserve that. And like we go above and beyond. And so I love having this conversation where it can be kind of like listened to, because I think it's important to know like business owners drive the economy. It's important. And we aren't big business. And I get where that comes from, but there has to be a difference between big business and small business. Like we are small business that like really, really cares about serving the customers, making enough money, putting some away for kids and all that kind of stuff. But like, then we invest it back. Like small business owners invest back in the local community
1000%.
at such a high rate. It's wild. Like Folds of Honor, Big Brothers Big Sisters. You guys do stuff with Big Brothers Big Sisters now. Like we give a lot of money. Like you're about to raise a ton of money for Big Brothers Big Sisters next weekend. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And like
then
that's what's
the weekend
wild.
after that, we got a gala for Folds of Honor. We got a thing for Police Athletic League. Like,
and like, so I even said this, maybe it was to you guys when we met. I was like, you know, growing up poor with no money and like my parents doing the things that they did and like now becoming devout Christians and like living this amazing life and everything. But growing up poor, I was conditioned with the surroundings of like rich people do this. So I get where it comes from, but like now that it's like pulled back and we're in the rooms hanging out with people who have money, it's like, oh man, like there is that subset of people who are just like rich jerks, just like you have the Gen Z that are just jerks and trying to take it down. But I would say still most of Gen Z is fine. Mm-hmm. And most rich people or people who have businesses are really trying to give back and do good and be good and all that kind of stuff. Like the rooms that I'm in, the conversations are around fundraising. Like 99% of the time, it's like donations, fundraising, galas, breakfast that we're going to, connections, networking, all that kind of stuff. Make more money to be able to do this. Like I don't know, it's just crazy. It still blows me away.
Yeah. It's definitely a lot different as I would get at bigger tables and the bigger rooms, like what the conversations looked like. I thought for a long time I had to like get this like weird knowledge base that I was like, I didn't have. I was like, I don't have the knowledge to be in that room. And I get there, I'm like, this is not what I thought they were going to be talking about at all.
Yeah.
Like the amount of big, huge tables I sit at that we drink bourbon, smoke cigars, and talk about hunting is pretty wild.
Yeah.
I'm sitting with tables of guys that have more money than they know what to do with. And they're talking about all these different charities that they're involved in. We're talking about different bourbons that people have been hunting for, the cigars where they ship them in from, and the hunts that they're going on, things like this. I'm like, I thought you guys talked about business all the time.
Yeah,
right.
We do this back in Kansas City.
I'm like, guess I figured out you don't talk business at these things.
Yeah,
I'm
right.
like,
Well, even just in the truck the other day, I mean, I got the email. I was like, Dane, which sponsorship level do you want to be at? I'm confident in the fact that I didn't ask Dane, do we want to sponsor this? I opened the email and just automatically, I was like, I know he's going to want to. So which level? The conversation was immediately, which level are we going to sponsor
back
at?
to Alex spending all the money.
Yeah. Like we're going to spend some money. So
Yeah.
like,
But I already knew that.
again, gold, silver, or bronze.
I already
What are we
knew
gonna do?
the answer. I already knew the qualifying
Yeah.
answer.
He really anchored me really
It's,
high. I'm like, oh.
it's a write-off. It's fine.
And I did anchor him high.
Yeah.
I was like, well, it starts at 40K, so the 10K table.
That'd be
Yeah.
nice.
But here's the thing, though. It immediately went into that conversation, then rolled into, and now who should we call next? Right? Who should we call? Who do we know? And in the very first conversation, it was 30 seconds into the phone call, and he's like, absolutely email me the information, and we are 100% going to support this. And,
Yeah.
and that's the thing, is that when you start building those relationships,
It's cool.
is just, you know, there are people that have that money, but you also know that they give a shit.
Yeah.
You know? So it was instantly, he was like, all right, now we got to call this guy, roll it out. And immediately right off the bat, the guy was like, absolutely, have him send me the email. I'm going to look through it, and I'll let you know what I want to do to also sponsor the same event.
Yeah.
I'm driving down the
Yeah.
road and just making phone calls, and I'm just like, yeah, actually, send that to this guy too. I'm like, you'll come.
That's
I was
awesome.
like,
While they're still on the phone, I'm like, what is it? Yep. Add.
Yeah.
Got it. All right. Tell him it's already in his inbox. We're good.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But
I
I
love
think
it.
that's
Wild.
the fun thing of business. I think it's the evolving and finding bigger purpose in what we do,
Yeah.
because I think a lot of people hunt for happiness and money. And I'll tell anybody that's hunting in that, it's a never ending hunt that you'll never find the end of. There's happiness found in other things.
Yep.
And it's some of the happiest
It's a
people.
depressing one too. Once you reach that milestone of what you thought would bring you all the happiness in the world, like that's some of my most depressed moments, is when I reached it. I got to the mountaintop, and I felt worse than ever, because I'm like, this was supposed to heal me. This was supposed to make me happy. This was supposed to make me feel like I mattered. And it was the opposite. Like, this didn't change anything.
Lack of fulfillment.
I ran the same pathway.
Yep.
And it was, when I came out of college, I was money hungry as all get out, and I chased it, and I thought I was going to find happiness in things. And I kept running. I was working myself in the dirt, and I was making a lot of money.
Yeah.
But I was at a spot that I was like, this is not what life is supposed to look like. And I didn't have time to really help other people. I didn't have time for my wife. I didn't have time for my family. I didn't have time for anything. And it was just like I was like, all the things that if I sat down that I said were important, I focused on the least important thing of all of them.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes you have to run into that wall and figure it out yourself.
100%.
I'm a very hard-headed person. I think everyone around me knows that I'm that way. So sometimes I don't listen right out of the gate. Sometimes I just have to go fall down myself to hear
And a
it.
few times too,
Yeah.
you know, like you do it and you're like, oh, okay, well, like maybe it'll be different. And hit that next milestone. You're like, oh, that was worse.
Yeah.
Well, with that in mind too, though. So like, as we're rounding this out here, we're talking about goals and fulfillment and success. We're also rounding out the year. We're a couple weeks out from finishing 2024. We're looking at 2025. I know we as a group are looking at what does a successful 2025 look like. We're talking about, quarterly check-ins. What does end of year success look like to us? If, we're popping champagne bottles December of 2025, what does that look like to you?
We're doing that no matter what.
Yeah,
I don't care what
that's still happening.
As long if we're all sitting at the same table, we're still popping.
We're still popping the champagne bottles. But to you, 13 years in business, doing what you're doing, what does rounding out the year? Because for us, a lot of people who are listening are similar to like what you talked about, is that it's people who are interested in business, own a business, want to build a business. They're interested in this conversation because they're in the same time of year.
Yeah.
What is your end of year going into the new year? What does that look like for you? And how do you think other people could apply that to whatever it is that they're trying to build?
Yeah. Are you talking this year or next year's new year?
I mean, kind of both, right? Like
Yeah.
as you're closing out 24, what are you doing? As you're planning for 25 / goal setting for end of 25, what does your version of that look like?
Yeah. So we're in the middle of quarterly evaluations with my managers right now. So regardless, we're kind of like in that process trying to figure out where we're the last 90 days. And so after this, after Christmas, the holidays, we'll all come together and kind of figure out what does 2025 look like just in a general sense. We do that because it's the start of a new year. Also, it's our slowest time. So we get a chance to plan and do all the things now so we can kind of tackle the year as a whole. I think that is incredibly important. For us, like we live by some variation of a meeting or just a simple like check-in, or what I like to call interventions. Because it's not always a meeting. Like we need to intervene and have a conversation about what's going on. So we will talk weekly. On Wednesdays, we bring all the managers together virtually, and we talk about everything inside of our business. So we're all on the same page and everyone is on board. Then we do a monthly, little bit of a bigger one with like our teams. And then quarterly, I'll sit down with every single manager and go through everything, their performance. I let them grade themselves first, then I grade them, then we talk. And then we set goals on what that looks like. And so we're in the middle of that. We are set up to have a really big 2025. We have a few more locations that are coming on, 2 that we're doing right now. We're in the process of launching a different brand. Like I was saying, my first business with chocolate. We're getting back into chocolate. It's going to be a kind of a co-concept of chocolate and coffee. So I'm really excited about that. That's going to be super dope. But the biggest thing for me is the planning process and starting up the goals does not just happen into the year and beginning of the year. That's why we do so many interventions and check-ins. It just can't. That's why, New Year's resolutions, before you know it, it's done. Like I think if people were to have those regular check-ins more often, they would be able to remind themselves, this is what I dedicated myself to. This is why we're doing it, etc. That's why we do it. It's revolutionized everything that we do. But for me, for 2025, I'm tired, if I'm being honest with you. And so this next year, I want to achieve more and do less. And that means more delegation, more empowerment, larger team, better systemization, hire less generalists, hire more specialists. We're really good at that thing. I don't hire many generalists at this point. I hire specialists who they've been doing this for a while. So we'll continue to hire those people that can take it off my plate, but then let them do the thing that we hired them to do. And that's what it is for me. Like if you don't even have a team out there and you're a solopreneur, or even if you have a team of 1 or 2, still have those meetings, still have those check-ins, because that's incredibly important. And I love if there's a rubric behind it, so it's the same meeting each time. So some people, meetings, will do EOS if they want to do that. So you have the level 10 meeting. That is great. I have a weird version of it. It's not the whole thing, but we do the regular meetings because of that. So I think that's incredibly important. Weekly, monthly, quarterly, annual meetings, even if it's just yourself.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah. So a very long answer, but that literally has revolutionized our business. And we started that about 6 years ago.
Yeah, I think having a high volume of check-in, we do leadership meetings every Wednesday. We have marketing meetings multiple times a week, content meetings multiple times a week, just having those check-ins, knowing where the pulse is at.
Yeah, 100%.
And I think that also is one of the things that a second location I'm not really worried about as much, as because
kill that.
We have the implementation of what we're doing right now. Those aren't going to change. All we're really doing is adding another department that a similar system setup will be going into, to where it's not I don't feel like it's a foreign concept by any means. Also, them being close, we're going to do a lot of things as a full company, back and forth between the two offices, just to keep people connected. But it's amazing when we put some people on here, how we can just talk for hours and hours.
Yeah.
I'm like looking at our creep up on 2 hours already.
Oh, man.
Like,
I did that a minute ago. I was like, damn, I looked down. I was like,
we're some talkers.
I was like,
did
I was like, I had to have misread that. I'm like, no, I think I read that right.
Yeah.
But I really appreciate you coming on.
Oh, absolutely.
A lot of great insights, and we'll definitely there'll be more episodes in the future.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited to meet all of you guys. Excited to continue to get closer to you. And I see you guys everywhere now. I don't know. It's like the, what is the RAS, the reticular activating system? Like you start to notice something or pay attention to it, and now it's everywhere. I'm like, I get the ads. I pull up YouTube and the shorts are there and all that kind of stuff. Yep. So that inspires me, because I know I need to show up better online like I used to. I was posting every single day, all that kind of stuff. And so I was saying that inspires people, because it actually inspires me to get the hell back out there and start putting out content again. So
I appreciate that.
Appreciate you guys.
It's a lot of work, but it's always playing the long game.
Yep.
If you're always playing the long game, that's how you win big. Play small, win small. Yep. But appreciate you being here.
Absolutely.
That was a great conversation.
Yeah.
Thank you, Alex, Ricky.
Thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. It's good.
That's the M3 podcast. Peace. Sounded like it just came crashing in there.
I was going to say, what about a time? I mean, on the point there.
You want brownie now?
I do want a brownie. Dang, it's almost 9. We were talking, weren't we?
I was going to say, that was a long one.
That's good. That's good.
Thanks for listening to the M3 Podcast. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. Want to learn more? Check us out on Instagram at Moss Marketing Group, on Facebook at Moss Marketing 58, or on our website at mossmarketinggroup.com.